Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We do it at all costs, every single day, 365 days a year, in case you didn't notice. And it's uplifting the hearts of many devotees, and we're praying every day that the Super Soul in the hearts of others will send more devotees to come and hear Srimad-Bhagavatam with us and enjoy life for a change. Because what's going on out there is something else. Okay. Hare Krishna, Vrindavan. Sanatana Goswami has something to say about the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram. He wrote the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which is a very interesting book. It's written in the vocative Sanskrit, which is very simple Sanskrit. You know, when you talk to people, you usually speak in a very simple way as opposed to other language that you use to write books and study and write papers and things. But vocative Sanskrit is very familiar and very simple. And it's written in a style that gives just a little glimpse of Krishna's pastimes, one after another, in Vrindavan, and to jog your memory for helping in meditation on Krishna's pastimes. It doesn't give the details, it just gives little hints so that you can remember Krishna's pastimes. And his idea was to offer 108 obeisances to Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, or Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. And this series of 5 verses, she must listen downstairs and know exactly when it's going to start, right? Okay. And Hare Krishna. And then, you got a problem?
They're saying the mic is really soft.
The mic is really soft. Shall I put it here?
The plug closest to him.
Oh, okay.
I did this before. This happened when I did last night. Mic and a better cord. This was just... Okay. How's it now? Me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello. Hello.
They said yes.
Hello. It's an Indian mic. It works. Only if you talk like an Indian. Testing out the sound. Oh, you got to turn it up to 12. Max. So anyway, so these 5 verses are meant to be the 107th obeisance that Sanatana Goswami is offering to the Srimad-Bhagavatam after he's meditated on all of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. That's what's going on here. Okay? Srila Sanatana Goswami has this to say about the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life heir of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Savasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mannishtadagamad bhagya mad anandanamostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu, sadhu tadayin, atini chochata kara, hanamun chagadachin mam, prem naret kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Narada Muni is continuing to summarize and explain explicitly the allegorical story he told to King Pracinabarhi, trying to enlighten him about what he was and what he was doing wrong. And yesterday we heard this extremely interesting series of purports all about the mind and how it works to carry the soul from one body to another, and how it all works. Wasn't it fascinating? Very deep and very fascinating. So let's see what Narada Muni has to say today. Text 78, chapter 29, Canto 4, talks between Narada and King Pracinabarhi. As long as we desire to enjoy sense gratification, we create material activities. When the living entity acts in the material field, he enjoys the senses, and while enjoying the senses, he creates another series of material activities. In this way, the living entity becomes entrapped as a conditioned soul. Purport. While in the subtle body, we create many plans to enjoy sense gratification. These plans are recorded in the spool of one's mind as bija, the root of fruitive activities. In conditional life, the living entity creates a series of bodies, one after another, and this is called karma bandhana. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Yagyartat kamanon yatra lokoyam karmabandhanaha. If we act only for the satisfaction of Vishnu, there is no bondage due to material activity. But if we act otherwise, we become entrapped by one material activity after another. Under these circumstances, it is to be supposed that by thinking, feeling, and willing, we are creating a series of future material bodies. In the words of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Anadi karma pali padi bhavanarva jale, the living entity falls into the ocean of karma bandhana as a result of past material activities. Instead of plunging oneself into the ocean of material activity, one should accept material activity only to maintain body and soul together. The rest of one's time should be devoted to engaging in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. In this way, one can attain relief from the reactions of material activity. Text 79. You should always know that this cosmic manifestation is created, maintained, and annihilated by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, everything within this cosmic manifestation is under the control of the Lord. To be enlightened by this perfect knowledge, one should always engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Purport. Self-realization, understanding oneself as Brahman or spirit soul, is very difficult in the material condition. However, if we accept the devotional service of the Lord will gradually reveal himself. In this way, the progressive devotee will gradually realize his spiritual position. We cannot see anything in the darkness of night, not even our own selves. But when there is sunshine, we can see not only the sun, but everything within the world as well. Lord Krishna explains in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 7.1, Maya Sakta Manak Parta Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Nasam Shayam Samagram Mam Yata Gyasyasi Trinu. Now hear, O son of Prita, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. When we engage ourselves in the devotional service of the Lord to become Krishna conscious, we understand not only Krishna, but everything related to Krishna. In other words, through Krishna consciousness, we can understand not only Krishna and the cosmic manifestation, but also our constitutional position. In Krishna consciousness, we can understand that the entire material creation is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintained by Him, annihilated by Him, and absorbed in Him. We are also part and parcel of the Lord. Everything is under the control of the Lord, and therefore our only duty is to surrender under the Supreme and engage in His transcendental, loving service. Text 80. The great sage Maitreya continued, the supreme devotee, the great saint Narada, thus explained to King Pracinabarhi the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity. After giving an invitation to the king, Narada Muni left to return to Siddhaloka. Purport. Siddhaloka and Brahmaloka are both within the same planetary system. Brahmaloka is understood to be the highest planet within this universe. Siddhaloka is considered to be one of the satellites of Brahmaloka. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka have all the powers of yogic mysticism. From this verse, it appears that the great sage Narada is an inhabitant of Siddhaloka, although he travels to all the planetary systems. All the residents of Siddhaloka are spacemen, and they can travel in space without mechanical help. The residents of Siddhaloka can go from one planet to another individually by virtue of their yogic perfection. After giving instructions to the great king Pracinabarhi, Narada Muni departed and also invited him to Siddhaloka. Text 81. In the presence of his ministers, the saintly king Pracinabarhi left orders for his sons to protect the citizens. Now, mind you, remember, his sons are doing austerities in the water, and they've met Shiva, and he's given them a prayer, and they're saying this prayer under great austerity in the water. And he was going to wait until they came back before he left. And now Narada Muni's convinced him, no, you just go. In the presence of his ministers, the saintly king Pracinabarhi left orders for his sons to protect the citizens. He then left home and went off to undergo austerities in a holy place known as Kapilashram. Purport. The word prajasarga is very important in this verse. When the saintly king Pracinabarhi was induced by the great sage Narada to leave home, and take to the devotional service of the Lord. His sons had not yet returned from their austerities in the water. However, he did not wait for their return, but simply left messages to the effect that his sons were to protect the mass of citizens. According to Viraragava Acharya, such protection means organizing the citizens into the specific divisions of the 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. It was the responsibility of the royal order to see that the citizens were following the regulated principles of the 4 varnas, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the ashramas, namely Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. It is very difficult to rule citizens in a kingdom without organizing this Varnashrama Dharma. To rule the mass of citizens in a state and keep them in a complete progressive order is not possible simply by passing laws every year in a legislative assembly. The Varnashram Dharma is essential in a good government. One class of men, the Brahmanas, must be intelligent and Brahmanically qualified. Another class must be trained in administrative work, Kshatriya. Another in mercantile business, Vaishya. And another simply in labor, Shudra. These 4 classes of men are already there according to nature. But it is the government's duty to see that all 4 of these classes follow the principles of their varnas methodically. This is called abhirakshana, or protection. It is significant that when Maharaj Pracinabarhi was convinced of the goal of life through the instructions of Narada, he did not wait even a moment to see his sons return, but left immediately. There were many things to be done upon the return of his sons, but he simply left them a message. He knew what his prime duty was. He simply left instructions for his sons and went off for the purpose of spiritual advancement. This is the system of Vedic civilization. Sridhar Swami informs us that Kapilashram is located at the confluence of the Ganges in the Bay of Bengal, a place known now as Ganga Sagara. This place is still famous as a place of pilgrimage, and many millions of people gather there every year on the day of Makara Sankranti and take bath. It is called Kapilashram because of Lord Kapila's living there to perform his austerities and penances. Lord Kapila propounded the Sankhya system of philosophy. Text 82. Having undergone austerities and penances at Kapilashram, King Pracinabarhi attained full liberation from all material designations. He constantly engaged in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord and attained a spiritual position qualitatively equal to that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. There is a special significance in the words Tat Samyatam Agat. The king attained the position of possessing the same status or the same form as that of the Lord. This definitely proves that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a person. In its impersonal feature, he is the rays of his transcendental body. When a living entity attains spiritual perfection, he also attains the same type of body, known as Satchit Ananda Vigraha. This spiritual body never mixes with the material elements. Although in conditional life, the living entity is surrounded by material elements: earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and ego. He remains always aloof from them. In other words, the living entity can be liberated from the material condition at any moment, provided that he wishes to do so. The material environment is called Maya. According to Krishna, Daiviyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam terantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. As soon as the living entity engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he immediately attains freedom from all material conditions. Sagonan samatitaitan, brahmabhuyaya kalpate. In the material state, the living entity is on the Jiva Bhuta platform. But when he renders devotional service to the Lord, he is elevated to the Brahmabhuta platform. On the Brahmabhuta platform, the living entity is liberated from material bondage, and he engages in the service of the Lord. In this verse, the word dhira is sometimes read as vira. Actually, there's not very much difference. The word dhira means sober, and vira means hero. One who is struggling against Maya is a hero, and one who is sober enough to understand his position is a dhira. Without becoming sober or heroic, one cannot attain spiritual salvation. Text 83. My dear Vidura, one who hears this narration concerning the understanding of the living entity's spiritual existence, as described by the great sage Narada, or who relates it to others, will be liberated from the bodily conception of life. Cheers to all of you liberated souls. It's just a matter of time. Now, purport. This material creation is the spirit soul's dream. Shall I repeat that? All right, I will. This material creation is the spirit soul's dream. Actually, all existence in the material world is a dream of Mahavishnu. As the Brahma Samhita describes, Yat karanar navajale bhajatis majoga nidram ananta jagaranta saroma kupaha. This material world is created by the dreaming of Mahavishnu. The real factual platform is the spiritual world. But when the spirit soul wants to imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is put into this dreamland of material creation. After being in contact with the material modes of nature, the living entity develops the subtle and gross bodies. When the living entity is fortunate enough to associate with Sri Narada Mahamuni or his servants, he is liberated from this dreamland of material creation and the bodily conception of life. Text 84. This narration, spoken by the great sage Narada, is full of the transcendental fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, this narration, when described, certainly sanctifies this material world. It purifies the heart of the living entity and helps him attain his spiritual identity. One who relates this transcendental narration will be liberated from all material bondage and will no longer have to wander within this material world. Remind me not to stop doing this, will you? Just in case I get stupid enough to stop. Purport. As indicated in verse 79, Narada Muni advised King Pracinabarhi to take to devotional service rather than waste time performing ritualistic ceremonies and fruitive activities. The vivid descriptions of the subtle and gross bodies in this chapter are most scientific, and because they are given by the great sage Narada, they are authoritative. Because these narrations are full of the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they constitute the most effective process for the purification of the mind. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the more we talk of Krishna, think of Krishna, and preach for Krishna, the more we become purified. This means we no longer have to accept a hallucinatory, gross and subtle body, but instead attain our spiritual identity. One who tries to understand this instructive spiritual knowledge is delivered from this ocean of nations. The word Parameshtyam is very significant in this connection. Parameshtyam is also called Brahmaloka. It is the planet on which Lord Brahma lives. The inhabitants of Brahmaloka always discuss such narrations so that after the annihilation of the material world, they can be directly transferred to the spiritual world. One who is transferred to the spiritual world does not have to go up and down within this material world. Sometimes spiritual activities are also called Parameshtyam. Text 85. The allegory of King Puranjana, described herein according to authority, was heard by me from my spiritual master, and it is full of spiritual knowledge. If one can understand the purpose of this allegory, he will certainly be relieved from the bodily conception and will clearly understand life after death. Although one may not understand what transmigration of the soul actually is, one can fully understand it by studying this narration. Purport. The word striya, meaning along with the wife, is significant. The male and female living together constitute the sum and substance of material existence. The attraction between male and female in this material world is very strong. In all species of life, the attraction between male and female is the basic principle of existence. The same principle of intermingling is also in human society, but in a regulated form. Material existence means living together as male and female and being attracted by one another. However, when one fully understands spiritual life, his attraction for the opposite sex is completely vanquished. By such attraction, one becomes overly attached to this material world. It is a hard knot within the heart. Pungsa striya mituni bhavametam tayor mito hridaya grantim ahu ato griha chetra sutapta bitayar janasya moho yamaham mameti. Bhagavatam 5:8. Everyone comes to this material world attracted to sense gratification, and the hard knot of sense gratification is the attraction between male and female. By this attraction, one becomes overly attached to the material world in terms of griha, chetra, sutta, apta, vita. That is, home, land, children, friends, money, and so forth. Thus one becomes entangled in the bodily conception of I and mine. However, if one understands the story of King Puranjana and understands how, by sexual attraction, Puranjana became a female in his next life, one will also understand the process of transmigration. Special note: according to Vijayadwaj Tirtha, who belongs to the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, the first two of the following verses appear after verse 45 of this chapter, and the remaining two verses appear after verse 79. Text 1a and 2a. Prabhupada is so scholarly, eh? To desire to maintain body, wife, and children is also observed in animal society. The animals have full intelligence to manage such affairs. If a human being is simply advanced in this respect, what is the difference between him and an animal? One should be very careful to understand that this human life is attained after many, many births in the evolutionary process. A learned man who gives up the bodily conception of life, both gross and subtle, will, by the enlightenment of spiritual knowledge, become prominent individual spirit soul, a prominent individual spirit soul, as the Supreme Lord is also. Purport. It is said that a man is a rational animal, but from this verse we can also understand that rationality exists even in animal life. Unless there is rationality, how can an animal maintain its body by working so hard? That the animals are not rational is untrue. Their rationality, however, is not very advanced. In any case, we cannot deny them rationality. The point is that one should use one's reason to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the perfection of human life. Text 1b. If a living entity is developed in Krishna consciousness and is merciful to others, and if his spiritual knowledge of self-realization is perfect, he will immediately attain liberation from the bondage of material existence. Purport. In this verse, the words Daya Jiveshu, meaning mercy to other living entities, indicates that a living entity must be merciful to other living entities if he wishes to make progress in self-realization. This means he must preach this knowledge after perfecting himself and understanding his own position as an eternal servant of Krishna. Preaching this is showing real mercy to living entities. Other types of humanitarian work may be temporarily beneficial for the body, but because a living entity is spirit soul, ultimately one can show him real mercy only by revealing knowledge of his spiritual existence. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Sarupa Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. Every living entity is constitutionally a servant of Krishna. One should know this fact perfectly and should preach it to the mass of people. If one realizes that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, but does not preach it, his realization is imperfect. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore sings, Dushtamana tumi kisera Vaishnava prashti taratari nirjaniragari tava harinama kevalat kaitava. My dear mind, what kind of Vaishnava are you? Simply for false prestige and a material reputation, you are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place. In this way, people who do not preach are criticized. There are many Vaishnavas in Vrindavan who do not like preaching. They chiefly try to imitate Haridas Thakur. The actual result of their so-called chanting in a secluded place, however, is that they sleep and think of women and money. Similarly, one who simply engages in temple worship but does not see to the interests of the mass of people or cannot recognize devotees is called a Kanishta Adhikari. Acharyam eva haraye pujam yak shadaye hate natad bhakte shuchanyeshu sabbhakta prakritak smrita. Bhagavatam 11.2, 47. To be, or not to be, everything happening within time, which consists of past, present, and future, is merely a dream. That is the secret understanding in all Vedic literature. Purport. Factually, all of material existence is only a dream. Thus, there is no question of past, present, or future. Persons who are addicted to karma kanda bichara, which means working for future happiness through fruitive activities, are also dreaming. Similarly, past happiness and present happiness are merely dreams. The actual reality is Krishna and service to Krishna, which can save us from the clutches of Maya. For the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond my illusory energy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 29th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Talks Between Narada and King Pracinabarhi. All right. That was quite a journey. Puranjana. Narada Muni's preaching. Okay, moving on to chapter 30. The activities of the Prachetas. Text 1. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O Brahmana, you formerly spoke about the sons of Pracinabarhi and informed me that they satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting a song composed of Lord Shiva. What did they achieve in this way? Purport. In the beginning, Maitreya Rishi narrated the activities of the sons of Pracinabarhi. These sons went beside the great lake, which was just like an ocean, and fortunately, finding Lord Shiva, they learned how to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting the songs composed by Lord Shiva. Now their father's attachment for fruitive activities was disapproved by Narada, who therefore kindly instructed Pracinabarhi by telling them the allegorical story of Puranjana. Now Vidura again wanted to hear about Pracinabarhi's sons, and he was especially inquisitive to know what they achieved by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here the words Siddhim Apu, or achieved perfection, are very important. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.3, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschit yatiti siddhaye. Out of many millions of people, one may be interested in learning how to attain success in spiritual matters. The supreme success is mentioned also in Bhagavad Gita 8.15. Mamopetya punarjanma dukalayam ashasvatam napnuvanti mahatmana sangsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls, who are yogis in devotion, never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. And what is that highest perfection? That is also explained in that verse. The highest perfection is to return home, back to Godhead, so that one will not have to return to this material world and try and transmigrate from one body to another in the dream of material existence. By the grace of Lord Shiva, the Prachetas actually attained perfection and returned back home, back to Godhead, after enjoying material facilities to the highest extent. Maitreya will now narrate that to Vidura. Text 2. My dear Bharhaspatya, what did the sons of King Barishat, known as the Prachetas, obtain after meeting Lord Shiva, who was very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of liberation? Certainly they were transferred to the spiritual world, but apart from that, what did they obtain within this material world, either in this life or in other lives? Purport. All types of material happiness are obtained in this life or in the next life, on this planet or on another. The living entity wanders within this material universe in so many species of life, in so many planetary systems. The distress and happiness obtained during the span of life are called iha, and the distress and happiness obtained in the next life are called paratra. Actually, Lord Mahadev, Shiva, is one of the great demigods within this material world. Generally, his blessings bestowed on ordinary people mean material happiness. The predominating deity of this material world, Durga, is under the control of Lord Mahadev, Girisha. Thus, Lord Mahadev can offer anyone any kind of material happiness. Generally, people prefer to become devotees of Lord Girisha to obtain material happiness. But the Prachetas met Lord Mahadev by providential arrangement. Lord Mahadev instructed them to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he personally offered a prayer. As stated in the previous verse, Rudra Gitena, simply by chanting the prayers offered by Lord Shiva to Vishnu, the Prachetas were transferred to the spiritual world. Sometimes devotees desire to enjoy material happiness also. Therefore, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee is given a chance to enjoy the material world before his final entrance into the spiritual world. Sometimes a devotee is transferred to a heavenly planet, to Janaloka, Maharloka, Tapoloka, Siddhaloka, and so on. However, a pure devotee never aspires for any kind of material happiness. The pure devotee is constantly transferred directly to Vaikuntha Loka, which is described here as Param. In this verse, Vidura asks Maitreya, the disciple of Brihaspati, about the different achievements of the Prachetas. Text 3. The great sage Maitreya said, the sons of King Pracinabarhi, known as the Prachetas, underwent severe austerities within the seawater to carry out the order of their father. By chanting and repeating the mantras given by Lord Shiva, they were able to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. One can offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, but if one repeats the prayers offered by great devotees, by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, or if one follows in the footsteps of great personalities, one can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. For instance, we sometimes chant this mantra of Brahma Samhita 529, Chintamani Prakadasat Masu Kalpa Vriksha Lakshavriteshu Sudabir Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems, and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, or Gopis. Because this prayer was offered by Lord Brahma, we follow him by reciting this prayer. That is the easiest way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The pure devotee never attempts to reach the Supreme Lord directly. The most important way to worship the Lord is to go through the disciplic succession of devotees. The prayers offered by Lord Shiva to the Supreme Personality of Godhead were thus repeated by the Prachetas, who were thus very successful in pleasing the Supreme Lord. Here the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Puranjana. According to Madhvacharya, the living entity is called Puranjana because he became... Sorry, that's me making a noise. According to Madhvacharya, the living entity is called Puranjana because he has become an inhabitant of this material world. And under the influence of the three modes of material nature, he is forced to live within it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material world, Pura, and he also enters within it. Andantadasta Paramanu Chayantadastam. The Lord enters within the heart of the living entity and within the atom. Therefore, both the living entity and the Lord are called Puranjana. One Puranjana, the living entity, is subordinate to the Supreme Puranjana. Therefore, the duty of the subordinate Puranjana is to satisfy the Supreme Puranjana. That is devotional service. Lord Rudra, or Lord Shiva, is the original Acharya of the Vaishnava Sampradaya, called the Rudra Sampradaya. Rudra Gitena indicates that under the disciplic succession of Lord Rudra, the Prachetas achieved spiritual success. Text 4. At the end of 10,000 years of severe austerities performed by the Prachetas, the Supreme Personality of, thank God for Lord Chaitanya, at the end of 10,000 years of severe austerities performed by the Prachetas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reward their austerities, appeared before them in his very pleasing form. This appealed to the Prachetas and satisfied the labor of their austerities. Purport. Performing 10,000 years of severe austerities does not seem a happy endeavor. Yet the devotees, the serious students of spiritual life, undergo such austerities to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At that time, when the duration of life was very long, people could undergo such severe austerities for thousands of years. It is said that Valmiki, the author of Ramayana, underwent meditational austerities for 60,000 years. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appreciated the austerities undergone by the Prachetas, and he finally appeared before them in a pleasing form. Thus they all became satisfied and forgot the austerities they underwent. In the material world, if one is successful after hard labor, he is very pleased. Similarly, the devotee forgets all his labors and austerities as soon as he contacts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Dhruva Maharaj was only a 5-year-old boy, he underwent severe austerities by eating simply dry foliage, drinking only water, and taking no food. In this way, after 6 months, he was able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. When he saw the Lord, he forgot all his austerities and said, Swamin Kritartosmi, my dear Lord, I am very pleased. Of course, these austerities were performed in the Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Treta Yuga, but not in this age of Kali. In this Kali age, one can attain the same results simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Haribol. Because the people of this age are fallen, the Lord is kind enough to give them the easiest method. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can attain the same results. However, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out, we are so unfortunate that we are not even attracted to chanting the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we'll stop there at the Mahamantra, and tomorrow we'll find out what happens, what Lord Vishnu has to say to the Prachetas after being pleased by their austerities. So here we are again. If the microphone's still working, we'll have open mic. Sarva, you got something? Got something? I knew you did. Something or other. I had a psychic experience.
There was a nice mention of Dhira and Vira, which sober and hero. Can you explain that in depth?
Would you like to?
I prefer you to do it.
What if I prefer you do it?
I just coming up with a question.
Thank you. Well, I mean, dhira means sober. Dhira means one is properly understood the philosophy. Dhiras tatra namuyati. The word dhira means that when we leave our body, if we're actually dhira, we're not disturbed by it, because we know that we're not going to die. That's what dhira means. And vira means hero, and sometimes the words are interchanged, because for one to do that, one has to be a hero, heroic, to be able to actually resist the temptations of the material world and fix one's mind on getting the goal of life and going back to Godhead. That's heroic. Therefore, hero and dhira are sometimes used interchangeably. Okay, Pranata, our fearless leader, spiritual leader.
Near the end, we heard about Dhruva Maharaj, and it said that he just ate dry foliage for and after 6 months, then he saw the Lord. And I thought it makes it seem kind of like, almost like a mechanical process. And then my question was it really because of the austerity he did, or was it because of maybe some internal qualification he had that actually the Lord revealed himself to him?
Well, obviously it's not mechanical, because no one can get darshan of the Lord by doing any kind of austerity, as much as they try. What actually brings the Lord into the heart is when you get the attention of the Lord. When somebody does something especially austere, or especially to make sacrifice for him personally. Because you don't get the Lord's darshan just by doing austerities. In the Bhagavad Gita, it describes austerity in the mode of ignorance. Can somebody give me a slight summary of what austerity in the mode of ignorance is like?
Hurts oneself and others?
Yes, it hurts others, hurts one's own body, tortures one's own body, and the super soul within. That's the secret. Thank you. You got it. You got it. It means that Krishna isn't, pleased just because we torture our body. So, the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, they were also performing severe austerities, relatively very austere for Kali Yuga, because normally in Kali Yuga we can't do such severe austerities, because our bodies and minds are weak. We're finding out now in a gross way why that is, because the water and the air and the food and everything and everything that we take into our body to maintain and develop it, in the mind even, it's weak, it's not strong, and therefore we don't have the same strength of character, we don't have the same memory, we don't have the same duration of life, we don't have compassion, towards others, humility also. So therefore it's not those things that pleases Krishna, it's when the soul is actually willing to give up this material world in order to go to Krishna. The desire to go to Krishna is so strong that it's willing to give up this material world in order to do it. So that's what pleases Krishna, and that's the point you're hinting at. It's not just the austerity; it's your desire. It's doing that austerity out of love and out of affection. When Lord Brahma did his austerities, because he first of all, he went off of the lotus flower. He was the only living being in the universe. Imagine coming into this world and being the only soul in it. How scary that must be, and how intelligent you must be to even consider what you should do. It's very, very frightening experience. But Krishna, because he's a very intimate, not just an intimate service of Krishna, he's actually a Shaktivesh guna avatar of Krishna. He's empowered by Krishna to do it. And he's also empowered by Krishna to know, what to do. So he went off the lotus flower and he started climbing down the stem to try to find the source of his existence, because that's the natural thing to do if one is human and intelligent. You want to find out why you're here, where you came from, where you're going, what the purpose is. If you don't think of those things, if you don't try to find these things out, then you're not human. So then after he came, he couldn't do it, because that, what do you say, that self-determined austerity of going down and going into the water and trying to find out, it didn't satisfy Krishna. So then, when he was coming back up, he heard tapa. Tapa means heat, it means austerity. So then he said, okay, now I know what to do. Because he's very intelligent. He's the most intelligent living being from the previous creation. That's who Lam Brahma is. So then he went up, he sat on the lotus flower, and he meditated for 10,000 years of his life, which is a long time. We could calculate it, but it would take me too much time to figure it out. And then, what happened? When Lord Vishnu was pleased, he appeared before him, shook his hand. Well done. Nice going. And then he told him, when he was congratulating him, he told him, this penance that you did with devotion, with love, is my heart. And therefore, even in a perverted sense, when a person does something, some severe austerity, in order to accomplish something, anything, that thing becomes solid. And if you do something extraordinarily austere or a special endeavor, difficult thing, for the pleasure of the Lord, then it becomes extraordinarily strong, as do you. I'll give you just a tiny drop of an example. When Tamal Krishna Maharaj called me to Govardhan in 1994, he wanted me to come and oversee the refurbishment of the Govardhan ashram. Has any of you seen a picture, the Govardhan ashram? No? Anyway, it was a derelict building. There were no floors, no windows, no doors. No plaster on the walls. Well, some, but not very much. And no running water. No electricity. A well. That was it. And it was brackish. It was so salty that you couldn't drink it. So we lived there under those conditions for a few years and oversaw and paid attention to every detail. You can see they're building that house there, how much detail it takes to get it all right. Well, this was one, and the walls, this is brick and lime mortar walls, and the plaster on the walls is lime mortar, made with a certain formula of lime crushed in hard lime. Like there's different kinds of lime, but they have limestone that's as harder than steel. You can throw it and break things. You have to crush it. And so we had to get a big, stone wheel, about this wide, about this tall. And we had a centerpiece, and we had to make a trough of stone. And then it fit in the trough, and it went around. And then we had a bull, and the bull would take it around, and that wheel would crush the lime. And you had to get the lime out of the ground. And you had to go to the farmers. Have you ever tried to get something from a farmer in Govardhan? No? It's not easy, believe me. It was like fighting the Battle of Kurukshetra. And then finally we had all the different materials and all the different artisans and laborers together, which was very difficult. And then it went to 57 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean centigrade, which is approximately 134 Fahrenheit. Yes. And we had to keep going. Because if you stop in India, if you have a crew together and you stop, that's it. You'll just have an unfinished building sitting there for the rest of your life, you know. So, you know, I don't know if you know, 134. The walls of this building, in some places, are 3.5 feet thick, solid brick and mortar. And the other two walls, in my room, it's 3.5 feet, 3.5 feet, 2 feet, and 2 feet.
Secure.
What?
You're very secure.
Oh, it's so secure. And then I designed the windows and doors so that they had, on one side there was like this, and another side there was like this, and the whole thing, top to bottom, fit together. So when you close the doors, it was like, and the other door would go open. When you open the other door out from the vacuum, because it gets pretty noisy over there. It's worse even than L train that goes by every once in a while. Sometimes it's even noisier for longer periods of time. So we went through all of this, and now anybody who was there and saw it, Sarva, some others, I don't anybody else here except Sarva saw this, and yeah, you didn't see it at the beginning. And in the winter we were taking ice cold showers. There was no hot water. Ice cold. Buckets, out of buckets. Yeah. Etc., etc., etc. I can, when it got to 134, all you could do was just make your gamsha as wet as possible and wrap it around your head and shoulders until it dried, which took about 7 seconds. And then we spent all day just to stay alive. And they have these sarayas. Saraya is like a clay pot that has a long stem, and then it goes like this. And the shape and the depth is such that when you put water in it, it cools the water, even when it's that hot. But then it went to 130, and then it stopped. That stopped working also. Up until that point, it was like, cool water, which was nice, really nice. So we had to, now we have, well, I'll show you a picture of it, what the result was. Okay, I've got time. Is this okay? I'm explaining to you what austerity is, and what the result is of this austerity, and what it looks like, graphically. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Right. Mm-hmm. I thought so. Okay. Now, the thing is I have to find it. I might have a fairly good picture of it, but I have to look at it. I don't have it. It's by date. It's not by subject or anything. Oh, Krishna. Well, I mean, this isn't such a good picture of it. I lost all of the before and after pictures because this one brahmachari, he had them all on a hard disk and he lost it. Could have wrung his neck. Gets like that sometimes. Sorry, I'm wasting your time here. I'd really like to show you this. Oh, here it is. This is it from a distance when it's done.
Oh. Wow.
And we had to redo all of the lime plaster with that process of the, grinding the lime, and then you had to put it on the wall right away, otherwise it wouldn't stick, it wouldn't go on right. We had to put gore, like it's, gore.
Oh, jaggery.
Yagri, gore. You had to put that in there, and you had to put jute, chopped up. There's this one man, all day he went like this. No machines, just, right? And bale giddy, the inside of the bale, which is very sticky, and you mixed it all in, and it made very nice meal for the ants. Okay, let me see if I can have some other photos to give you some idea. Anyway. This is what you can see from our roof. That's Govardhan Hill. From the roof. Darshan. Anyway, that's the meaning of austerity with love. It makes something wonderful, and this is the wall that we did, and I oversaw personally every single piece of stone that went into the wall to make sure that they were all, all the cement was taken around it so that it looks nice. Because in India they just, they just put cement. They don't make it look nice. And I had a nice picture of the front. This was the road that comes in. It was made by brick road. And Sri Krishna was helping me, and it got to the point where we had all the, the dirt all spread, and we needed, guess what? We needed a steamroller. We had never seen a steamroller before. And just as he got it to the point where he needed to do it, guess what came by this gate? This is the gate right there. He was thinking what to do, and then all of a sudden, a steamroller ran by this gate, and they ran over to it, and the guy said, okay, and he paid him 500 rupees, and he came in and he did the whole thing. And then, this is the way we do things in Govardhan. So, this is austerity with love. This is not, you can't see exactly, that's the front of the building.
It's like a palace.
Huh?
It was a palace?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was the Bhajan Kutir of a king before we got it.
I know when Vaisheshika Prabhu said it's not
What?
a palace. Vaisheshika Prabhu, when we were there, he said it's not a palace, it's a fortress.
Yeah, it was a fortress. This is kind of like another angle of it, from another angle.
How many years it took to renovate that?
Well, it was going on and off from 1994 to 2000, about 6 years.
You were there though?
Yes. There's me figuring out Tamal Krishna Maharaj's Samadhi. I'm standing exactly at the spot that I selected for his Samadhi. And these trees in the back, right in back of me, there's little trees here, right here, these are Tamal trees. And Yeah, now they're really big, and they go over it, and it's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous, completely gorgeous. And that's Tamal Krishna Maharaj's samadhi after it was put in. Pushpa samadhi. Okay, now you know something about austerity. What else can we do here? Hare Krishna. This is our Tulsi garden. Okay, folks, that's it. I'm out of here. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Narada Muni ki jai. The Pachetas ki jai. King Pracinabarhi ki jai. For Premanandi, Samaveta Bhakti. We'll see you tomorrow night, same place, same station, 6:30 Central Time, here at Radha Lane, live studios. Hare Krishna.